What's up, everybody? It's ya boy again, the Unabonger, the official mascot of Humane Garbage. And if this is your first time watching one of our videos, please hit the subscribe button. Thanks! So today, Sunday, December 27th, 2020, I went and saw Wonder Woman 1984 in the theater. Now, the first thing I kind of want to talk about that is not even the movie at all, but the movie theater experience now. I'm sure this varies for everybody depending on where you live, and honestly, I live in a place where the sort of mask laws, or whatever you want to call them, the mandates, aren't super stringent because I'm in a place where you kind of gotta fend for yourself, and it's probably best to kind of be polite and leave certain things alone, I guess is a way to put it. But anyway, basically I had to go into the movie theater with a mask on, and then I was supposed to keep the mask on while seated unless I was eating popcorn or candy or drinking something or other. Uh-oh, guys, I did a real naughty thing and I didn't keep my mask on during the movie. Shame, shame, I know, but yank my fucking crank. But anyway, the movie starts out with Wonder Woman, with Diana as a young girl, and she's about to compete in kind of a Olympics for the Amazon sort of thing. And surprisingly enough, this little girl is kind of kicking ass at this. And she even gets ahead of all the other athletes who are adults, but she gets cocky and kind of gets knocked off her horse and it runs away. But she sees a little shortcut, takes that, finds her horse again, and is able to finish the competition at the head of the pack. But Robin Wright Penn stops her right at the end. I don't know what her name is. Sorry, I didn't see the first Wonder Woman movie. But honestly, I think this movie does well enough to kind of get the broad points along. Plus, I've been a comic book reader since I was a little kid. I must admit, I didn't read a whole lot of Wonder Woman, but I kind of get the general idea. Anyway, Robin Wright Penn kind of tells her off a little bit and she says, "Hey, listen, we know that you kind of did a little cheating there, so we can't let you win this. You know, one of these days you're going to be a hero and you're going to know better than that, but this is kind of one of those learning experiences." And I actually kind of like this scene. It's been a little bit since I watched this today, so I hope I'm not forgetting anything. But then we go to a 1984 kind of Wonder Woman where she's in the city, she's swooping around with super speed, saving people, trying to stay unseen. And it's kind of got this kind of cool original Superman movie sort of vibe to it, you know? Again, I kind of like these scenes where she's saving a little girl in a mall from these jewelry thieves. And then we kind of go into Diana's normal civilian life where she's like an archaeologist working at a college, that sort of. And she meets this dorky colleague of hers, the Kristen Wiig character, Barbara. And they end up hanging out a little bit. Barbara thinks that Diana's super cool, and it kind of makes Diana think of Steve. Steve Trevor, her old flame from apparently the first movie, Chris Pine's character. Oh my god, a heterosexual relationship in a movie in 2020? How risque! But then Kristen Wiig's character has the FBI come along and asks her about a relic that the college, the museum, has come in contact with recently. She finds this relic. And anyway, it's kind of a Rosetta Stone artifact. I don't know if that's the right term for that. A monkey's paw is what they use in here a handful of times. But basically, it's this little rock formation and it's got a little incantation on it. And it's kind of a wish fulfillment thing. But they don't know this yet. And Diana, when she's holding on to this rock, she ends up making a wish that she wished Steve was back. That goes unsaid, but that's obviously what she wished for. And then a little bit later, Kristen Wiig wishes, well, I wish I was as cool and confident and hip as Diana. And, you know, just wishful thinking, just like any sort of wish really is usually. It has little to no consequence. Except what they discover is this wish actually does have consequence and actually is real. And Steve Trevor comes back in another dude's body. And anyway, he ends up meeting up with Diana again and they reconnect and she's pretty fucking jazzed about that part of it. But then she realizes, hey, that rock that we thought was fake and doesn't grant wishes, Turns out it does grant wishes. So anyway, in the meantime, Kristen Wiig's character has gotten a lot more male attention, kind of turned from a 0 into a 10, and she's also finding out that, holy shit, she's got super strength. Oh, holy shit, Diana's Wonder Woman. We've also got another character that comes into play in this story named Maxwell Lord, who is played by Pablo Pascal, and he's kind of this fake, slick on the surface shyster type with an oil business that doesn't have any oil. But funnily enough, he's been researching this Rosetta Stone artifact for years and years and years, and he's found it, and that's why he is going to this college. He's making nicey-nicey with Kristen Wiig, but Diana's pretty cautious of him. Max Lord ends up throwing this big, lavish party, and he ends up grabbing this Rosetta Stone, this wishing stone, from Kristen Wiig. And then instead of doing the completely obvious wishing for more wishes, Max Lord decides, hey, I'm gonna wish that I am now the wishing stone. And the stone crumbles to dust in his hands, and now he has the power to grant people wishes. And then this also becomes, well, I'm just gonna tell you what I take as payment for this somehow, some way. This somehow becomes word and law. And he starts going and granting wishes to his old business partners, who then end up instantly getting arrested by the FBI for tax evasion. He goes and meets a Saudi oil baron who actually has oil, or at least had it, because after he gets his wish of having his motherland back under his control, and a giant wall pops up surrounding his motherland, he then reveals, I sold off all my oil to some other guys. And then Maxwell Lord just says, well, I'm just taking your soldiers. And sure enough, they just hop right along. No questions asked. There's a few parts in this movie that are a little kind of weird, and I understand and I get it why people are bitching about it. Meanwhile, the capeshit movies being big, that era is about to be over, in my opinion. And then also, hey man, it's just a stupid fucking comic book movie. It's just a fucking kiddie movie. Not all this shit has to make sense. You know, you've got somebody that's bulletproof and flying through the fucking air, and there's some certain sticking points where you're like, oh, that's where my suspension of disbelief just abruptly ends. I can deal with a race of women who somehow procreate without men. Like I said, I didn't watch the first movie. Let me know in the comments how that fucking works. But this little sticking point is where I draw the fucking line. Anyway. So Diana's hanging out with Steve Trevor. Kristen Wiig's a fucking badass now. Max Lord is getting his fingers into fucking everybody, having everybody grant their own wishes when they touch him. We get kind of a scene thrown in, I think, about this point, where Steve Trevor's like, oh, hey man, I gotta go fly one of these jets. I gotta go fly like an F-16. So kind of inexplicably, Diana gets him on a runway for one of these jets. They end up taking off in it. And then at this point, she says, hey, my dad or whatever. I can't remember if she said dad now that I made that little thing before. But anyway, he used to make things invisible. And oh, I've tried it too. And one time I made a coffee mug disappear. And then she kind of like conjures up, like she starts rubbing her hands together and she conjures up like this little supposedly invisible ball, like Sue Storm or some shit. And then she touches the interior of the jet. And then the whole jet turns kind of translucent and visible, including the flame trail and vapor trail behind it too. So then they take off and nobody can see him. Radar can't see him. And, you know, they kind of have this little jet scene that I'm sure was made especially for the theater, if not an IMAX version of this movie. But we've got this scene of them flying around and, oh, it's just the 4th of July and there's all these fucking fireworks going off above us. And it's just a nice looking scene. I get why they did it. It is visually appealing. That's another thing that people have kind of bitched about online about this. And I'm kind of like, well, they try to make the movie nice looking, try to make it visually appealing. And you're going to shit on them for that? Like, once again, it's just kind of a stupid comic book movie. Just kind of let it be what it is. Anyway, we keep kind of moving on. Diana figures out, hey, I've had this wish come true. We need to talk about this artifact that we thought was fake actually being real and being this wish fulfillment thing. And hey, what's the cost involved with that? Is this screwing with the world in a way? You know, we kind of need to get this power sort of limited. Anyway, then Diana goes to Kristen Wiig. Kristen Wiig says, well, fucking Maxwell Lord took it. And then it becomes Diana and Steve Trevor going to get a hold of Maxwell Lord. And this kind of matches up with Max Lord getting the oil baron's security detail. And then there's kind of this cool, almost Raiders of the Lost Ark-esque scene where it's this whole security detail on the road driving, and Wonder Woman's basically batting around all these different armored vehicles to get to the main vehicle. But then there's some kids in the road, and she ends up saving those kids instead of stopping the trucks, and they end up getting away. Then we kind of have this scene where, Wonder Woman's bleeding. She got hit by a bullet, and she's actually basically paying a toll for Steve Trevor being alive again. And hey, it's taking my powers away. I'm becoming mortal. Then they kind of have a back and forth and some talking about her and Chris Pine about, hey, listen, my time is past and it's probably better off that you let me go. And, you know, you'll find somebody along later. It'll be all right, baby. And eventually, after we kind of have another battle scene and Wonder Woman's kind of down on her luck, she renounces her wish and Chris Pine disappears off screen. And then she kind of runs and lassos a building. Then she lassos a plane. Then she lassos like a lightning bolt in a cloud or some shit. And then she hears Steve Trevor repeat this speech he gave her before about flying. And she figures out she can fly. And she starts flying like Superman. And she can also lasso shit and kind of swing around like Spider-Man on anything she wants to. Oh yeah, so let me tell you about this kind of scene right before this, basically. Before this point where Wonder Woman gets her groove back. But anyway, Max Lord is continuing to gain influence and power by granting people wishes, and he eventually gets to the President of the United States. And Wonder Woman tries to stop him from getting away. There's kind of this cool fight scene that was in at least one of the trailers. And then Kristen Wiig busts in, and she's kind of got like this torn up punk rocker sort of look going on now, and she's a real badass. And her thought is like, hey, listen, I've got these powers, I'm cool and I'm sexy now, and there's no way I can renounce this wish and go back to the way things were before, so I guess we're gonna have to fight, bitch. They have a fight scene. She ends up whooping Diana and ends up helping Max Lord get away. And then basically Max grants her another wish and she turns into Cheetah. I think the name is just Cheetah, which is to my limited knowledge, a Wonder Woman villain from the comics. My guess is that this isn't her real origin at all, but it kind of works out for the movie, so let's just throw everything we got at the dartboard, you know? Again, if I'm wrong about that, which I very well might be, please let me know in the comments below. So anyway, Kristen Wiig whoops up on Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman renounces her wish, and Steve Trevor disappears. She learns she can fly, she gets her groove back, and then she heads after Max Lord again, who now, after visiting the president, has found a technology, kind of like the Star Wars satellite ray program, whatever you want to call that shit, but it takes over TV waves. Takes over TV signals, that sort of shit. And he can beam himself into every TV screen on the face of the planet. And with this technology, he ends up being able to grant everybody their wish who is watching this and says their wish at the time. And complete chaos ensues across the world. Before Wonder Woman can get into this lair to stop Max Lord, she first apparently swings by her house and gets on the golden Alex Ross armor. She has a fight with Cheetah, which was very bizarre to me. It almost reminded me a little bit of kind of towards the end of Batman Returns, They're basically at a electrical plant, like a power station, and Wonder Woman swinging around on her lasso, and then Cheetah swinging around on motherfucking cut power lines, and it looked really fucking gay to me. It was this kind of ballet dancing sort of bullshit, I guess. But then they fall in the water. Wonder Woman ends up electrocuting Cheetah, and she dies for the time being, I think, until she's shown to, as far as I can tell, be alive later in the movie, kind of right at the end of it. I don't know, but anyway. Wonder Woman busts in on Max Lord and his transmission to everybody, and she ends up lassoing him with her lasso of truth. And she kind of has this big, long, drawn-out speech about how the truth is the most important thing and all that sort of shit. And then that ends up being transmitted out to everybody too. And then everybody in the world starts renouncing their wishes. And Max Lord even ends up renouncing his wish too. And then he ends up going and seeing his little son, who has been ignoring this entire movie, and they reunite, and it's kind of this feel-good kind of ending at that point, where everything kind of goes back to normal. Diana kind of has this weird tacked-on scene at the end, where the guy who took over Steve Trevor's body sees her on the street, has no idea who she is. They have a little friendly exchange, and then they part ways, and she kind of says, yeah, anything can happen. And this balloon floats up into the sky, and that's basically the end. Now, I must admit, I've seen plenty of shit talking on this movie on the internet the past few days. I usually don't get to see movies this quickly, so I guess I'm trying to take advantage of that too, and crank out a timely review of this movie, hoping to get some views, you know? But I really don't think this is bad as a lot of people are kind of making it out to be. It's a capeshit movie, man. What do you want? You want cinema? You want Scorsese? Man, these movies have been around for a minute. You should probably know what you're getting into at this point. And for what it is, I don't really think it's that bad. I'd probably give it about an 8.5 out of 10, maybe even a 9. And I think we're kind of currently in an era where basically what we knew as Hollywood is going to start going away. And movies aren't going to really be made for the big screen anymore with these bitchin' fucking speakers that can shake the fucking theater. I think we're going to go to more episodic sort of storytelling even. Basically TV shows. And budgets to sort of reflect that too. Are there some continuity errors in this? Like Wonder Woman's just flying along, and then off screen she gets her golden Alex Ross armor and is geared up in it when she's heading toward that power plant shit? Yeah, there is. But who fucking cares, dude? Do you think anybody's sitting there going like, oh my god, this superhero flying along didn't have the time to fly to her house and get this fucking armor and then fly back here? Oh, you cut that out? How could you do that? Like, who fucking cares, dude? Some of this shit that people are bitching about on this is just kind of like, who fucking cares? But anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you this time. Thank you all so much to all my new viewers who have subscribed recently, and all my old viewers too. And if this is your first time watching a Humane Garbage video, please hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned for another video from Humane Garbage, and as always, remember to hit the pipe harder than you hit your wife and kids.